Greetings, adventurers. This is DM Kurt, and I want to start a new series where I talk about what 5th edition got right and got wrong for Dungeons and Dragons. Episode 1, The Rogue. So, the Rogue, to talk about them, you have to go back to basic 1st and 2nd editions and think about the Thief, from which the Rogue sprung. So, the Thief character class was pretty much required of the core 4 if you're going to do any dungeoneering. They were the only ones who could sneak ahead quietly using their move silently ability. They were the only ones who could find and remove traps, and they were the only ones who could pick locks. So when you're dungeoneering and you're facing tons of deadly traps, you need your Thief. Unfortunately, as vital as they were for these non-combat exploration portions, they were pretty much worthless in combat. They had piddly hit points, they had terrible rolls to hit, they had low armor class or poor armor class, using only light armor. They had very small, lightly damaging weapons. And the only way to make up for this was an ability called Backstab. Backstab gave them a bonus to hit, which sort of made up for their poor to hit tables, which were different than anybody else's to hit tables. It was the 3rd best, with only the worst being the magic users, who usually don't need to roll to hit with weapons. And the Backstab ability, if you're lucky and you can get in and take somebody by surprise from behind, you could do a significant modifier onto your rather low damage, bringing you up to par with a fighter for that one round. Next round, however, you're probably going to get torn to pieces because your survivability is very low. Doesn't sound like a fun class to play, does it? So for the most part, in practice, the Thief would use his non-combat skills, and then when combat broke out, he'd stay away from the fight and occasionally shoot an arrow into the melee, unless the DM had strict rules on firing missile weapons into a hand-to-hand combat and accidentally hitting your friends. So they might as well just stand back, eat a cheese sandwich, and wait for it to be over. Now the Rogue, for 5th edition, everybody has the same chances to hit. Now the Rogue is limited to light weapons, but they're usually finesse weapons with which they can use their high dexterity the same way that a fighter can use his high strength with his big weapons. So their chances to hit are roughly equal. Their survivability is actually pretty good. With their light armor, they still get to use their full dexterity bonus, unlike your heavy armors, which don't. I kind of got into the whole armor thing a little while ago, but they have some survivability bonuses for using dexterity against certain types of attack. All in all, they're not frontline fighters like the fighter, but they are a solid 2nd tier with their sneak attack ability, which is similar to the Backstab, but instead of a modifier, it's a bonus. So a couple extra d6, or several extra d6, added on to an attack whenever they can get what we call advantage. Advantage is a fun mechanic which replaces a lot of the other situational bonuses of 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, which is really a great mechanic. But I'm getting off track there. So the Rogue is decent in combat, and they still are great at investigation and the removal of traps and the movements of stealth. Although the names of the skills are different, the role is the same. They're great with all these non-combat skills, and yet not worthless in combat. So they've really been brought into being a more fun character to play. You don't have to sit out sections of the game. Now, there's multiple subclasses of Rogue, and of those, my favorite is the Scout. So instead of being the burglar or the arcane trickster, the Scout is a wilderness exploration specialist who excels in the art of the ambush. It's all about movement and skirmishing and getting that first quick strike and then moving back successfully and unharmed, generally, and then moving back in to strike again. Lots of fun, and you can easily color that as not an evil or greedy character. You get some roleplay potential on the more good aligned side. You can almost make it into a character that can outranger a ranger. Other than the spellcasting abilities of the ranger, you have that wilderness exploration specialist and decent combatant with great numbers of useful non-weapon skills. And that's why I think for D&D 5th edition, they actually did right with the rogue. DM Kurt out.